putting wireless this and that. So you can take
Right now it's about 25 past 12.
You gotta go up more. We can't see you. Or go over to the side. They're not gonna let her go up. Yeah, over here would be better.
Oh, I feel totally nauseous. Oh, just because just being in there. It's just, yeah.
Then I put on my hat.
Oh, no, yeah.
Now on my backpack.
Ellie!
My second one I lost.
Ellie, make a sandwich board.
We're down to
Yeah, it's been good. Fine, we're gonna have you go right where,
Hey, you have some tape. You can make a sandwich board.
Can everyone hear me? Is it loud enough? Yeah. All right. We're here today at the Public Utilities Commission opt-out workshop. My name is Joshua Hart. I'm the director of StopSmartMeters.org. We started our organization and website about a year ago in response to several reports that people were experiencing health problems and other concerns about the smart meter program. Little did we ever imagine that this could have grown into such a public health crisis as we're seeing today. There have been thousands and thousands of written reports from the public to the Public Utilities Commission reporting some of the very similar symptoms that we're seeing: headaches, nausea, dizziness, problems with sleep. Partly in response to this growing clamor and reporting from the public, 46 individual local governments throughout California, elected local cities and counties, boards of supervisors and city councils have demanded a halt to this program. Over the past year, we've seen a significant political upheaval, starting in Bakersfield with ratepayers paying hundreds of dollars more than they were paying before the smart meter went in, to the privacy alarm, the alarm over the violation of civil liberties, to the growing awareness that wireless radiation is not a harmless substance. The bottom line is that Governor Brown needs to remove Michael Peavy from the presidency of the Public Utilities Commission yesterday. He is not a man who serves the public, he is a man who serves the utilities' interests. This smart meter problem is not going away. The longer we let it go, the longer we refuse and fail to address the wireless damage being caused, the worse it will get. At the heart of the debate over health damage is the existence of electro-hypersensitivity. Now, the utility industry and the telecommunications industry has for years and years and years pretended that it doesn't exist, pretended that people who are complaining of symptoms when exposed to cell towers and now smart meters are simply making it up, that they're psychosomatic and there's no real biological basis. Well, that supposition is very quickly crumbling. Yesterday, the BBC reported that many Americans who are electrosensitive are gathering in Green Bank, West Virginia, which is part of the National Radio Quiet Zone, to be in a safe place. On September 5th, the Journal of Neuroscience published a journal article, this is a peer-reviewed journal, where a physician who was reporting electrosensitivity was tested in a double-blind study, and they found direct physiological responses from exposure to electromagnetic fields. Their conclusion, the Journal of Neuroscience and the Louisiana State University scientists, medical researchers who carried out the investigation, concluded that electrohypersensitivity is a bona fide neurological syndrome. Inside, we're talking about how much to charge for people who have this medical condition in order to just simply live their lives. And this is a violation of Utility Code 453B, which states that the utilities may not charge anything extra to people based on medical condition. Now, it's so great to see all of the people who are here today, here asking difficult questions of the utilities and here to protest the smart meter program overall. But I want everyone to think about all the thousands of people who aren't here today. Those people who are electrosensitive, who cannot stand to be in the city. And I want to read a statement from Winifred Thomas, who could not be here today. She's extremely sensitive to electromagnetic fields, and this is what she says. My name is Winifred Thomas. I could not attend today's protest because merely driving through areas with smart meters seriously jeopardizes my health. And that is my point for today, that an opt-out will not work because smart meter radiation does not stop at property lines. When smart meters were installed in my neighborhood, I had no idea that they were anything other than replacements for old, worn-out meters. I had no idea that they were related to my sudden health decline. I got so ill that I became bedridden. I found out only by accident that the source of my illness was smart meters. I desperately wanted to stay in my house. Despite PG&E's threats, I created my own opt-out and had my smart meter removed. It helped. I felt a little better, but it was not enough. I was still bedridden for days at a time. Smart meters do not understand property lines. The radiation goes far and easily through windows, walls, and ceilings. I tried shielding my house and spent lots of money on sheet metal, grounding wire, special radiation blocking fabrics, and clothing, but still it was not enough. The smart meters on my neighbors' homes put out so much radiation that my home will never be safe. So even without a smart meter on my house, radiation fills my home from the meters next door. If I were to convince all of my neighbors to remove their smart meters and opt out, there would still be the problem because there are data collector antenna on the telephone poles. This system creates so many sources of radiation that there is absolutely no place left to be safe. When you eventually become doused with enough radiation to become as sensitive as I have become, you will not have anywhere left to go. An opt-out won't save you from the radiation that comes through your car while driving to the grocery store. An opt-out will not protect you from the meters at your children's schools. Your local park may look pretty, but the lights it turns on at dusk are also connected to meters which are putting out radiation. No place to hide. An opt-out will not work. Now, Winifred's story and thousands of others like her around the state and around the country who have been victimized by this brutal and senseless, hasty deployment is one reason why opt-out is not enough. We must pull the plug on the wireless mesh network. It has been a terrible, terrible mistake, and people are hurting. Are we the kind of society that will permit people to be thrown out of their homes, evicted from their communities so utilities can make more profits? Are we? Okay. Are we the type of society that will let sick, vulnerable people pay extortionate fees just so they can live in their homes while corporate fat cats at PG&E and the other utilities get richer and richer?
Yes!
Are we a society that will permit governments and utilities to spy on our private lives, violating our civil liberties? Are we a society that will bury our heads in the sand even as millions of our friends and family members get sick, develop brain tumors, and electrosensitivity?
Of course!
Are we the kind of society that will ignore solutions to these problems that are right in front of our face, like the secure, shielded, high-speed fiber optic connections that are being used in areas of this country such as Chattanooga, Tennessee, as we speak? Are we the type of society that turns off cell towers and other transmitters for radio telescopes, but not for millions of our fellow Americans who are suffering?
Of course.
Let's send a message to the CPUC, the governor, and the utilities. Pull the plug on the wireless mesh network. Pull the plug! 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 Pull the plug!
Pull the plug.
In the meantime, before it becomes so obvious that we've got to do what we need to do and pull the plug off this dangerous system, at the very absolute minimum, the CPUC and the governor must halt deployments and adopt a free, retroactive, individual or community analog opt-out. That is the bottom line to protect people who are suffering and being thrown out of their homes.
Right on.
The bottom line is that we were never asked. We were never asked permission for the utilities to install something on our private property, on our residences, and they needed to ask. When we said no, the utilities said, we don't care. We're going to force them on you anyway, and we're going to threaten you with service disconnection, with arrest. We're going to have our installers scale your walls, cut open your locks, and even assault you. There have been cases of assault where residents have been assaulted in Texas and in Santa Cruz by installers who are so insistent on getting their bonus and getting these meters installed that they push past and push over residents. This is not the America that we need or we love. PG&E and the other utilities are and continue to, they're violating our constitutional rights. Are we going to put up with that? No! Are we going to put up with PG&E violating our rights to health, safety, and privacy in our own home? No! Enough is enough. I'd like to pass the microphone on now to some people who would like to also weigh in on this issue. Specifically, Tom Rossi, who's a resident of San Leandro. He and his wife live in an apartment that is just above a bank of how many meters? 43 meters. And I'll let Tom describe his experience with that and what he's doing to try and fix the situation. Thanks, Tom.
I discovered our bank of smart meters that's directly below our bedroom, my wife and I's bedroom, and it's underneath our second bedroom, which we use as an office. We both work at home. So basically, we're both being microwaved 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, except for when we happen to be out of the house. Amy O'Hare came and measured the signal strength from these meters, and it's so much stronger. It's so much stronger than PG&E claims, and it's so much more frequent than PG&E claims. They claim that they will send out a signal once a day, and this is a complete lie. They send out many signals, sometimes many signals per second. So just on a random trip down there, she found thousands and thousands of spikes. And then she measured in our bedroom, and most of this signal is coming through our floor. So what does opting out mean to me? If I somehow got them to take out the one smart meter for my apartment, I would still have 42 meters beneath my bed. So this doesn't make a lot of sense for me. I want the opportunity to opt out completely. I want those meters out of my apartment. I demanded this of PG&E, they laughed at me. I'm trying to find a lawyer. We'll see if somebody has the guts. So this system, I was never informed. I was never warned, and I was never informed that it would happen. So, my wife is having really disturbed sleep. I have weird heart palpitations. It's important to know that I am not a cat wearer. I am not a crystal worshiper. I don't believe that aliens built the pyramid. I am a trained scientist. I have a master's degree in biology, and I'm most of the way to a PhD in social policy. This is not a bunch of kooks out here. Look at these people. We have a real complaint, and I think we've got to get something done here.
The bottom line is that through statements via local governments, through thousands and thousands of Californians lodging their official complaints to the Public Utilities Commission, it's clear that the entire state of California and many other states wants to opt out of this program. Yeah. And the whole idea of charging people who are suffering in their homes just for the privilege of having what they had before with their analog meters, it's like someone standing at the bottom of this wheelchair ramp right here charging disabled people to use it and to access the Public Utilities Commission, which is a public building.
Which they would do if they could.
Which is what they would do if they could, it seems like. You know, this is immoral, it's illegal under state utilities code. As more evidence comes out, including the World Health Organization on May 31st, announcing that smart meter radiation and cell phone radiation and Wi-Fi and all this wireless mess that we're creating is a class 2B carcinogen based on brain tumor cell phone studies. Society will eventually get to a point where we say enough is enough, and we say the wireless experiment wasn't worth it. The future is wired, high-speed, stable, secure, wired Ethernet, wired high-speed, fiber optic, that doesn't put our health at risk and doesn't exclude 3 to 5% of the population who happen to be electrosensitive from participating in society.
And that number is growing. It's growing.
And the whole thing, of course, about electrosensitivity is that it's a result of being injured by the wireless radiation, and this is a cumulative problem. As we see the smart meter mesh networks rolled out in various parts of the state, we're seeing higher reports of electrosensitivity. People who didn't have this problem before suddenly developing symptoms. And the question is, how bad is it going to get before the policymakers and the governor and the Public Utilities Commission puts a halt to it? I don't think we can depend on them to put our health and safety first. We need to organize in our communities as they've been doing in Fairfax, as we've been doing in Santa Cruz and Mendocino and many other counties and areas throughout the state. We have to take responsibility for our own communities and our own health and say no to this program. So today, that's what we're here to say to the utilities and the Public Utilities Commission very clearly, that charging for an opt-out is not enough. An individual opt-out is not enough. The whole reason this debate and discussion got started in the first place was because thousands of Californians are reporting health damage. Now you'd think that if that was the case, we'd look into it, we'd investigate it, we'd have experts come and testify. No experts are allowed to go on the record inside that building at the workshop today. Members of the public are not allowed to go on the record with their health complaints on the record. This is a violation of our freedom of speech, our First Amendment rights, and enough is enough. I want to hand it over to Amy O'Hare, who's a San Francisco resident, has been doing what the Public Utilities Commission and other official institutions should have been doing all along, which is going out and measuring the radiation in the field. The reason why PG&E and the other utilities do not want to answer the very relevant question of what is the peak pulse of radiation, which they have never revealed about these devices they're putting on our homes, is because they are extraordinarily high. And these are significant increases in background electrosmog that we're living with in our communities. So here's Amy to talk a little bit about her first-hand independent research using her analyzer.
Thank you. 6 months ago, I didn't know what a megahertz was or a microwatt or any of that stuff, but I learned very quickly. And I bought an analyzer so I could measure the pulses on smart meters in particular, but I ended up measuring a lot of other things as well. Inside today, the PG&E or the Silver Springs Network representative said that these things transmit data 6 times a day. That sounds pretty benign, doesn't it? Not very much there. Well, I went out to measure meters. I have measured hundreds of meters, banks of meters, individual meters. I spent time in one of these things just standing there with this thing waiting for something to happen. And I'll tell you, something really does happen. It's an amazing number of pulses that these things put off, and it is not in PG&E's data. It is nowhere near any of the things that they say. They time average their pulses. So let me give you an example of what time averaging is. You know a strobe light? If you time average a strobe light, you get a 15-watt bulb. But it's not the same thing at all. Ask anybody who has visually triggered epilepsy. A strobe light is a very dangerous thing. Here's 1 meter I measured for 1 minute, just 60 seconds. 156 pulses. Here's another meter I measured, just a single meter on the side of somebody's house. 1 minute. For just 1 minute, 70 pulses. Another meter for just 1 minute, 5 meters, 62 pulses. That's 1 minute, that's 1 a second. There's another bank of 2 meters. 2 meters, 129 pulses in 1 minute. That's 2 a second. I mean, these numbers are just off the charts. At Tom's place, where I measured 42 meters, in just 1 minute, 527 pulses.
Wow.
That's not small potatoes. These are really serious numbers, just the pulses. Okay, how about the peak power density? How much power does each one of these pulses have? Some of the pulses are getting up there for really high numbers. You think that a cell antenna, let's say a cell antenna with a little fence around it and a label on it saying back off, warning, you could get some high doses if you go beyond this fence, is high. Well, the peak pulse density on a smart meter can be 10 times what you can get standing on the other side of that cell antenna. 10 times. Not 1,000. So how about your cell phone? Let's say you've got a low star cell phone and you're holding it, doing a speakerphone. You might get a little radiation. But if you're standing in front of a smart meter, you're going to get up to 10 times as much in these sharp peaks. These are the kind of data that I want my government to do this. I want somebody who actually knows a little more than I do about radio frequency to actually be measuring these things. When EPRI, the independent organization that was supposed to measure these meters, did their measuring, you know what they had to do? They had to ask the manufacturer to reconfigure them so they were even measurable. They had to ask them to emit regularly and reliably so they could measure them, and that's the data you see. It's not in the field data, it's manipulated data. So I'm interested in truth. I think you are as well.
Independent people like Amy, we have to thank for finding out the truth about what these smart meters emit. And I just want to play the audio recording of these pulses for you right now. PG&E says that the smart meters emit 45 seconds a day. It's multiple, over 15,000 pulses a day that are milliseconds long. If they had truth on their side, if these things were actually safe, they'd come out and say that. But they have to use time averaging. They have to obscure the data. They have to hide. They have to use these faulty comparisons to try and hide the damage that's going on. And if you look at the FCC authorization form for these meters, the particular model number, OWS NIC 507, the exact type of meters that are being installed in Northern California, the FCC themselves says all persons must be kept 20 centimeters away from the meters at all times in order to keep within FCC limits on human exposure to microwave radiation. Nowhere do any of the utilities warn people about this. You have kids, you have pets running around, potentially sitting on meters, playing on meters. This is extraordinarily reckless. If you read further down the document for this authorization form, it says, meters shall not be co-located. And we have records of over 100 meters on the same wall. These are meters that are co-located. The utilities are violating FCC requirements, and no public agency will hold them to account. Now, I just want to say a few words just from a personal level, that 2 years ago, if I'd been standing here and you said, look, you know, we're really worried about the wireless health effects of cell phones and Wi-Fi and smart meters, I probably would have rolled my eyes and walked away and thought you were some tinfoil hat crazy conspiracy theorist. And I did the research and I started hearing from all these people. I wasn't affected myself, but I certainly heard from a lot of people who were, who sounded very credible from all sorts of backgrounds. Now, over the last year, I don't know whether it's a result of exposure to smart meters, but I've developed electrohypersensitivity myself. It's very difficult for me to stand here. There's pressure in my temples because of the ambient EMF. I can no longer walk in my neighborhood since they installed smart meters without getting stabbing pain in my temples. And I'm not really happy about that. And I'm not really happy about the fact that our government is ignoring thousands and thousands and thousands of people who are reporting the exact same thing. I mean, what is this coming to? You know, that we're being thrown out of our neighborhoods, that we're being forced to live in the forest? There's something very, very horribly wrong when people have to flock to the shadow of a radio telescope to get safety. That the needs of the machine, that the technocracy, that the technology is more important than human health. Anyway, let's go back in there. It's almost 1 o'clock. Let's go back in there. Let's ask questions of the utilities. Let's get answers. We are the public. We deserve a right to know what's going on in our house. We deserve a right to know why millions of our friends and family members are getting sick from these meters. And we have a right to pull the plug on this wireless mesh network that is causing so much harm. Thank you.